morning, everybody. I'm out here by the tracks on Dr. Edward Hillard Drive. I see the train coming down the tracks. Figured I'd catch one before I get started on my run while I'm waiting for my food to settle before I take on this 9.3 mile run. So here it comes down the tracks in a few seconds. This is one of the more reliable times to find a train in Tuscaloosa. This eastbound train usually comes through around 6:20 in the morning with all kinds of different freight cars. About to start my 9.5 mile run. Let's see how many trains I can find. First, I headed down to the Alabama Southern Yard just west of I-459. This is the Alabama Southern rail yard in Tuscaloosa. Got one of their Jeeps idling and then a Canadian National locomotive idling as well. These locomotives will make another appearance later. Next, I went south to the Norfolk Southern siding by the Amtrak station. I saw these end-of-train devices sitting on this rack with a couple of flags. Does anyone know why they would just leave them sitting out like this? This rack is just a little south of the sidings we just saw. Barely caught this one. I had already passed this spot on my run when I heard the train horn, so I had to turn around and book it back so I wouldn't miss this one. As you could tell by my out of breath, barely caught this one. Just like the first train, this is another mixed freight with all different kinds of cargo. A surprise Union Pacific DPU. From there, I headed south to some of my other favorite spots. From here, you can barely make out the lights of the Canadian National locomotive we saw in the beginning. I kept hoping it would leave the yard so I could see it, but it was doing lots of yard work and didn't leave the yard. You can see me running back and forth across the track hoping the CN would come out of the yard, but after a few passes, the headlights disappeared and I moved on. I love the shot of the train passing under the cantilever signal. Also, if you look close, you can see the locomotives bouncing over the switch, which I thought looked like they were bouncing to the beat. This made the second Norfolk Southern train I'd seen on my run. I decided to only count the ones that were moving. Next, I went down to check out Tamco Building Products. They manufacture roofing shingles and receive covered hoppers from Norfolk Southern. Here you can see the nice dwarf signal next to the cantilever signal. I made my way up Exchange Avenue to the Diamond Crossing at the interchange of the Norfolk Southern AGS South District and the Tuscaloosa sub of the Alabama Southern. Does anyone know what these piles of gravel are between the tracks? Just under 6.5 miles, and we got train number 3 approaching, southbound or westbound. Looks like an intermodal train, but we'll see as it gets closer. KCS leading. I tried and failed to get the signal drop, hence the zooming in and out. CPKC has some kind of agreement with Norfolk Southern that allows them to run their intermodal trains through Tuscaloosa. Just over 6.5 miles. We've already caught 3 Norfolk Southern trains around here. So we're gonna see if we can find some Alabama Southern ones over a little bit north of here. I changed my mind and took another detour because I saw that the CPKC intermodal train had stopped. It wasn't obvious as it was going by, but you can see it slowly decelerating in the video. Now I actually started heading back north. On my way north, I saw this conductor throwing the switch, so I knew that I was in for some action. After a few minutes of faking me out, this Norfolk Southern train started crawling forward. These are the same locomotives that were off to the left in the Norfolk Southern yard earlier in the video. finished the 13.2 miles or 15K. Got to see 3 Norfolk Southern trains and 1 CPKC intermodal, so pretty good morning. Didn't make it back to Alabama Southern, but got pretty satisfied with what I saw this morning. And just cooling off, it definitely heated up as I got more into the run. Good day. Even though my run was over, I decided I wanted to see more trains, so I took a ride on my e-bike. Here you can see the Alabama Southern wooden trestle bridge crossing the Black Warrior River in Tuscaloosa. It's very old and one of the longer wooden trestles in the country. Hopefully I'll catch a train on it sometime soon. Here you can see the Roll Tide portion of the iconic trestle bridge that I pay homage to in my profile picture. They're having a grand opening for this brand new baseball park in Northport, so I decided I would check that out too. Here's one of my favorite spots in the Tuscaloosa area as a rail fan, the historic Northport train depot. This building is just off of the Alabama Southern line in Northport and features 2 spectacular model railroads, one in O and one in HO. If you're ever in town on a Saturday, I definitely recommend checking this place out. They also have some nice G-gauge trains running around the top of the depot, as well as an old Mobile, Ohio caboose. I did eventually make my way back to the Alabama Southern Yard on my e-bike and got to see some action there. Finally, later in the afternoon, I got to see this Amtrak train chugging through the countryside. Thanks for watching T-Town Trains, and don't forget to like and subscribe.